Hello, everybody. Welcome to Aclara's conference call. Today, our CEO, Ramón Barúa, will be covering the Carina Module PEA in more detail. He will be sharing a short presentation, followed by a Q&A session, so please send us your questions using the question box below. Joining Ramón is CFO Francois Mott and COO Barry Murphy, who will also be available to answer your questions. At the end, we will be uploading a recording of the session on our website. And to start, Ramón is going to start the presentation now.
Hello, Liliana. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our conference call to present the PEA results for the Carina module. So I'll be sharing this presentation. I'll try to make it as quick as possible so that we can move into Q&A. Here's a disclaimer. And essentially, well, today is a fantastic day for Aclara. We officially are announcing our PEA for the Carina module in Brazil. This is a journey that started roughly a year and a half ago when we sent a team of geologists to Brazil in order to look for more ionic clays, similar to the clays that we had found in the Penco module. Today, we have two world-class ionic clay deposits in South America, in two countries that are very familiar with producing and which have a very important pipeline of projects for critical minerals. So we are really very happy to be both in Chile and in Brazil. Something that I would like to highlight about the Carina module is its potential to produce quite significant amounts of dysprosium and terbium. The way we decided to represent these 208 tons of dysprosium and terbium that we can produce annually for around 17 years is to represent it in terms of equivalent production to the Chinese official production. We already have the numbers for 2023, and Carina can produce 13.7% of the Chinese official production. Penco, much smaller, but also very important, is 3.3%. So combined, Aclara has the potential to produce around 17% of what China officially produces today. For us, quantity is not the only important thing. It's also how we do it. Probably most of you are already very familiar with our very strong commitment to extract rare earths in an environmentally friendly way. We have developed and patented a process that is quite unique in the world. It's based on not using explosives, not having milling or crushing, which are the two stages that in mining generate most of the CO2 footprint. And we have a closed circuit that is sustained on recycling. We recycle water, all the water that we use, and we recycle also our main reagent, which in this case is a common fertilizer. We recirculate it with 99% efficiency. And that closed circuit allows us not to have any liquid waste. And the clays, given that we didn't crush them or mill them, we're able to take them back to the site from where we took them. So I believe this is really at the leading edge of green mining in the world. And we're very proud about that. And we have been able to demonstrate it in our pilot plant, semi-industrial scale in Concepcion. And we'll talk about, we've done that for the clays in Chile. We're doing that now for the clays in Brazil. Financially, we're very strong. Primarily, our backbone is the Hochschild Group. As you know, Hochschild Mining owns 20% of Aclara. Eduardo Hochschild himself owns around 37% of Aclara. And they are important supporters of what we're doing. We raised $100 million. We still have 33. And the current market cap as of yesterday of the company is only $64 million. These are really the headline numbers for the PEA at Carina. As I mentioned, we have a very long life of mine. I believe that life of mine is going to be further extended by the drilling campaign that we are already embarked on. The NPV using a discount rate of 8% is $1.2 billion. The IRR is 29%. CapEx was prepared by G21. It's a Brazilian company, and of course, significantly supported by our experience in Penco, where the engineering has been quite advanced in recent months and recent years. We've been working on the engineering of Penco for quite some time. And also we have in our team in Brazil very important engineers that have a substantial experience in similar projects in country. So we're pretty comfortable about that number, and it of course also contains a 30% contingency. The average cost is rather low. We are also aiming not only at doing things sustainably well, but also low cost of production is going to be key. The main two aspects are a mining cost is earth movement, very standard. The deposit is quite superficial. The stripping ratio is only 0.3. So it's, again, the deposit is very close to the surface, and very quickly we can find very good grades. The average of the deposit at this stage is only 8 meters. So I would say quite simple and straightforward to mine Carina. No? And when we compare that to the net smelter return, the NSR of $49.1 per ton, that is giving us the margin that is supporting this PEA. The EBITDA has been estimated at $340 million. And at the bottom, you can see a chart where we compare the production of DYTB versus NdPr. Of those of you who have heard our presentation before, the ratio of 5.7 to 1 is quite important, because that means that the market is going to want to purchase the DYTB, and we're going to sell it together with the NdPr. So being in a ratio of less than 10 to 1 is something that we see very positively, especially for our commercial strategy going forward. When we look at the market today, here this slide represents the supply of dysprosium in 2023. At the top of the chart, you can see China's production coming from Batu in Inner Mongolia of close to 400 tons. The ionic clay deposits are producing more than double that. And there's also more production that we saw emerging in 2033. It's not too formal production. There are no formal ways of demonstrating this production. This is sourced mainly through customs data, but there is some, I would call it, informal production coming from several countries in the southern border of China, flowing into China of DYTB. Serra Verde, you know that project, it's already operating. I'd say it's a fantastic project also in the state of Goiás, where the same state where Carina is set. Serra Verde has already obtained all their environmental permits, is already in production, and is selling right now 100% of that production into China. I would say all of those sources are currently going back to China for processing, and we have in the rest of the world MP Materials in the US, Lynas in Australia, you know them well, processing in Malaysia. But that gives you an idea that currently in the world there's only around 3,000 tons of dysprosium and terbium being produced. Sorry, dysprosium and terbium being produced. The estimation by Argus Media is that we are going to be requiring by 2033 close to 8,000 tons. This number is supported primarily by the growth in electric vehicles and the growth in wind turbines, primarily offshore wind turbines. So there is a significant gap, that the world needs to cover of close to 5,000 tons. Carina will only contribute with around 200 tons per year. This is quite substantial, again, compared to what China can produce today, but it's also still, a drop in the ocean compared to the amounts that we're going to be needing. Hence, the projections on prices that we are seeing in the next slide. Here on the top left, we have precisely that. In the previous slide, we saw dysprosium and terbium. This is just dysprosium. So that's why the numbers might not add exactly to the numbers we saw before, but there is total supply estimated of around 4,000 tons, while demand is going to be 7,000 tons. A market substantially undersupplied, and that's why Argus Media and Adamas, the two independent companies that we use for price projections, are suggesting that the prices will likely heavily increase in the coming years. As you can see on the sensitivities on the right, it is precisely prices and metallurgical recoveries, the two variables that have the highest impact on our NPV. Discount rate, capex, and opex have much less of an effect. When we compare to other significant ionic clay projects and producers, Cerraverde is already a producer, as I mentioned, in the world. Here's how we present ourselves. No, important to note that in the case of Cerraverde, ionic rare earths, and the Penco module, we're talking there about measured and indicated resources, while the Carina module and Meteoric, we are still at the inferred resource level. But the bubbles give you an idea of size of the deposit. And at the bottom, you can see the contents of dysprosium and terbium in the basket. No? And we are quite excited to see that both Carina and Penco contain the highest grade, the highest amounts of dysprosium and terbium in the basket. We believe that this is quite important, as they are the most scarce elements. No, just as a reference, in May of last year, May of 2023, the Department of Energy in the US published a report regarding critical elements, and it's precisely dysprosium, the single most important critical element in the short term to address the energy transition. No? So that's why Aclara also focuses its strategy in trying to produce environmentally sustainable dysprosium and terbium as its primary goal. Here in the next slide, we see the basket price of the different projects. Again, Carina and Penco also have the highest value of the basket, supported precisely by the higher prices of dysprosium and terbium. And this is a composition that we like very much. No, of course, we like having NdPr. It provides a diversification to our portfolio. However, we believe that the fundamentals for price appreciation in dysprosium and terbium in the future are larger. So having a larger component of those two elements, we see it as a very positive advantage for Aclara. These are the numbers, no? But as I mentioned earlier, to us is even more important how we do it. No, we need rare earth elements to solve a major problem, which is global warming. But we also recognize the importance of doing green mining. No, we do not intend to solve a problem by creating another. On the contrary, no, we would like to leave the land that we are using for extracting these elements in a better position than how we originally found it. The process that Aclara has patented is called, we've baptized it as circular mineral harvesting, and the main elements are right there in front of you. No explosives, minimum carbon footprint, no, supported by no milling and no crushing, no tailings dam, recycling as much as we can. The water, we recycle it with 95% efficiency. But in the case of Penco, where we're more advanced with engineering, the 5% makeup for that to be 100% is taken from the city of Concepcion, water that is also recycled and currently disposed in the ocean. So we have, I believe we have quite solved the problem of water for the case of Penco, and we intend to do something similar in the case of Carina. No, and the sites that we use as extraction zones will be revegetated. In the case of Penco, we have already committed to do it with a native species. In the case of Carina, we're already working on that. But there is a budget for a full revegetation of the area already embedded in the model and in the NPV that we have presented you. This is a picture of our pilot plant in Concepcion. We believe that this is not only has been used to demonstrate that this process, this environmentally clean process, works. We have created commercial samples that have been distributed to companies and projects throughout the world. Right now, the clays of Carina from Brazil are already in Chile and are being processed in this plant. And we believe that it gives us also a technological edge compared to other projects in the world of ionic clays. This is quite unique and again puts us in a position to move quite quickly to be in production at the soonest. The timetable reflects first the inferred mineral resource drilling that we're conducting right now. As I mentioned, we have only touched the surface of the Carina module. We've only gone as deep as 8 meters, and we're going deeper right now as we speak, and those results will be ready to be announced for the market at the end of the first half of this year. The piloting will also be reported this year, and we will, with those additional resources, we will update this PEA. No, I don't think that the capex and opex are necessarily going to change much, but the resource base is going to be, I believe, hopefully larger than what we have presented. We are also moving in parallel. We have already submitted the RFPs for conducting a pre-feasibility study. We believe that in this novel type of projects, it's important to have a pre-feasibility and a stage when we can evaluate different alternatives. So we're going to do one. We're going to convert the resources to measured and indicated. I believe that this is going to be quite straightforward because the stability that we're seeing in the resource is quite significant. And we're going to be preparing a feasibility study. Permitting is going to run in parallel. We have already hired several consultants that have started to work in different baselines that we need. We have also started our interaction with the state of Goiás. I have been personally meeting with the governor, the Secretary of the Environment, the Secretary of Industry, and the Secretary of Infrastructure. No, and I can gladly say that we have felt a fantastic reception in the state of Goiás. As I mentioned, they have experience with Serra Verde in this type of projects. They know the type of project that this is, and they are, I would say, quite enthusiastic about seeing investment being brought and employment being generated in the region. So we are quite excited about this. Then we will have a construction phase that I don't believe is going to be too large, because the plant really that we're proposing is quite simple, quite straightforward, and be in operation with Carina in the year 2029. The upside potential is important. No, we have a strong NPV, but we believe that we can improve it. I mentioned already that the drilling, we have a campaign already running of a little bit more than 9,000 meters. We have started to receive results, not of the desorbable grade, but we have received results of the total grades, which correlate very well with the desorbable grade. And our estimation is that there is a further potential at depth to increase resources in the deposit. And finally, also, as I mentioned, the pilot plant is going to be a source of metallurgical improvements and hopefully also ideas to reduce capex and opex. No, there are some things already we're working on. This just summarizes. This is important because I think it will be something that has distinguished Aclara in recent months is its communication to the markets. We've been very proactive in sharing with you everything that is going on with Aclara, and we continue to, and our intention is to continue to do so. No, so we will show you the piloting results very soon in this quarter. The resources are going to come. We're going to update the PEA with them also in the upcoming quarters. And we intend to complete the pre-feasibility study and the environmental baselines by 2025. So quite aggressive plan underway to be in production as quickly as possible. Let me close with that, saying that, I mean, what differentiates Aclara in the heavy rare earths market, no, that we have seen is we are going to be quite unique in supplying significant amounts of dysprosium and terbium, but we're going to do it in a traceable, sustainable way. no, in a way that is going to be, we're going to be a reliable, I like the word reliable supplier, you know, for companies in the US, in Europe, in Asia, who are transitioning from producing combustion vehicles into electric vehicles. They are going to need these important elements, no? But they are going to need them in a way that their customers feel very proud about the elements that are going into their products, no? And we're committed with that vision. We want to be the market leaders. We want to be the first in production, but we wanted to do it under the most stringent environmental standards. There's no other way for us. With that, let me stop the presentation and invite you to ask any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramon. We haven't received any questions yet, so I just wanted to remind everybody that you can write your questions in the questions box on the side, or you can also send it to us later, investorrelations@aclara-re.com. It looks like we still don't have any questions, so we will also send you an email with a recording of this conference call, and we will upload it on the website. Oh, we do have one question coming in. Is DOE funding an IRA compliant? Ramon?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, I think the connection froze for a moment. We cannot see your screen, your camera. But a question came in asking if it's IRA compliant.
Yes. Unfortunately, the IRA right now only covers battery materials. It doesn't cover rare earth materials.
Okay.
However, no, having said that, what we have seen is the U.S. government, through the Department of Defense, supporting some rare earth processing initiatives. So we believe that the fact that rare earths have not been covered by IRA, there is a very strong commitment by the U.S. government to build a value chain that can support the automobile and other industries in the US, no? The electric vehicles primarily, of course.
There is a question about processing the material, but there is no, I would like to ask the person who sent us this question, it only says processing. So if you would like to know something more specific, maybe please send it on the box. Chronogram accelerated? That is the question.
Sorry, what's the question?
It says chronogram accelerated.
Can we accelerate the timetable? Look, I believe that that bottleneck for the timetable is going to be the permitting stage, no? Which is, I mean, we're going to really work to present a very solid documents, but it's a little bit outside of our hands. It will depend on a high level of collaboration between us and the evaluators at the state level in the state of Goiás. As I mentioned, we're off to a very nice start with them. There is a very positive and proactive attitude. So we are quite optimistic that the timeline that we have presented is achievable. If there's any improvement, I believe that the main place where this can happen is again, if we can obtain the permitting quicker rather than later.
Thank you. We're getting also a question about financing.
Yes. No, that is a great question. I believe that financing is going to depend, of course, highly on our ability to sell our product. No, these rare earths are not commodities. These rare earths will require a separation plant. They will require a buyer. They will require an important off-taker. We have started conversation with several of these off-takers, again, in Asia, in the US, and in Europe. We are quite optimistic about their willingness to diversify their sources of rare earths. So we are working together in producing this. If we have a credible, substantiable off-taker working with Aclara, we believe that the financing will be easier to accomplish, of course. No, it will open up several opportunities for us. We have also received interest from equity investors to fund projects like this. There is, I would say, a quite substantial appetite in supporting rare earth metals in a geopolitically independent supply chain that comply with all the environmental standards. No, so yes, financing is yet to be determined. It will be highly dependent on our commercial success, but based on that, I believe that we're not going to be short of options.
The next question is, how are you thinking about separation and further downstream processing?
We are thinking about that in a very active way. No, we are following two paths. One, which is to do it through a third party, and in that regard, there are parties that can separate today rare earths in the West. There are not many, but there are quite a few. There are also very interesting projects, some of them using known technologies as solvent extraction or rapid SX. There are other more innovative technologies like chromatography that we're also evaluating. And the second, no, so the first path is to do it through third parties and commercial contracts. But there is another path also, which is to do it ourselves. No, we believe that the technology is not too far from the capabilities of our metallurgical team has. Of course, we will need help. No, we're also talking to companies and groups of people who are quite experienced in doing solvent extraction in this case. So we are seriously consider doing separation ourselves. No, we have not defined if we would do that yet in Brazil, in Chile, in Europe, or in the US. But it's certainly part of our plan to seriously consider vertical integration. No, we believe that it will give us a commercial value, it will give us strategic value, and it will give us economic value. So it makes sense however you look at it.
Thank you. The next question comes from Katie LaChapelle. How are you thinking about near-term capital needs and project financing?
Yes, look, I don't think that we're going to be doing any project financing in the short term. I told you about all the beautiful things about having two projects. That the only negative aspect is that the money that we have runs down twice as fast. No, I think that we're well prepared to address the year 2024, and then we will probably need to fund the company in order to go to the next levels of developing these projects.
And Cesar's question, Cesar Perez, following up on Katie's, it was about capital raise and also debt requirements.
Yes. I don't think, Cesar, that we can raise any debt at this point. This is a project that will be developed mostly through equity and also through potential. Something that we're exploring is either grants or prepayments from off-takers, or also financing facilities from potential off-takers. No, those are, I would say, the main avenues that we are pursuing at this stage.
Thank you, Ramon. The question from Andrew Wong is, how does the project compare to Serra Verde, and can we use Serra Verde project approval timeline as a blueprint? In your conversations with the government, is there potential to speed up approvals now that there's another project to benchmark against?
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Look, the project is similar, but is not exactly the same. I would say two big differences that come to mind is that I think Serra Verde is using salt as the reagent. We're using ammonium sulfate. And something that is very distinctive to us is our recirculation of water. No, we take that very seriously. We believe that water is always a scarce resource, and we need to protect it above all. No, so we are considering in our capex a water plant to fully treat all the water in the process. The Serra Verde permitting has been. I'm not an expert on that, but in my mind, Serra Verde did spend some time during the permitting process. I think many things were learned both by, of course, by the company and by the authorities. So our expectation really is that this very important and valuable precedent will help us run quicker through the permitting process in Brazil. As I mentioned, we have been received what I believe with open arms by the state of Goiás. So we're excited about that. They have it clear also that timing and permitting of critical materials projects requires a high priority. I would say this is something not particular of the state of Goiás, but most generally a feeling that we're receiving in Brazil as a whole. So yes, at this point we try to be conservative. We've put the timing of 2 years, I believe, which is the standard. But we're going to work very hard and as close as possible with authorities in order to expedite this opportunity.
Thank you, Ramon. The next question is from George Lovesgard. How do you anticipate approaching OEMs and magnet makers given the scarcity of DYTB?
Thank you, George. The conversations have already started. No, I would say that there are two topics that are always on the agenda with OEMs. The first one is they need us to work harder in further integrating into the value chain. No, selling them a carbonate is not enough. No, so the question about separation was also quite important, and we're going to provide a solution for that, either ourselves or through third parties, as I mentioned earlier. And the other conversation is always around prices. No, the only existing prices of dysprosium and terbium in the world are published by China, but unfortunately they are not liquid prices. No, so you cannot go and buy significant amounts of dysprosium and terbium at that price, much less arrange a long-term contract for supply of those elements. Also, any material that is being transacted there is not traceable. No, so you don't know what the origin of that material is. So we question that the Chinese published prices are the best reference in order for us to sell our product. No, we are fully committed to doing to supplying environmentally clean and reliable dysprosium and terbium for many years to come. That will come also at a price, and we're prepared to have open book conversations with the OEMs in order to find mutually agreeable solutions, at least for the short term, and then in the medium to long term, we'll see where prices go. But part of the reason why we're investing in this project is because we strongly believe that there's going to be a substantial imbalance between supply and demand of dysprosium and terbium particularly, and the main adjustment is going to come through prices. No, so in the short term, I would tell OEMs this is the moment to close the most attractive terms. After 2030, I believe that there is going to be a substantial escalation on prices of rare earths in general, especially the YTB.
Thank you, Ramon. The next question comes from Mark Byrne. Has any potential customer tested any of the product yet?
Yes, we have sent to around 15, I would say, different companies throughout the world that have tested the penco clays in their facilities. We produce samples using our pilot plant. Some of them, again, are existing producers, others are projects. Some of them have tested the product at the lab level, others in a more, let's call it, semi-industrial way, no? And the results have been quite positive. I think the main attributes of our product have been the high contents of DYTB. That is highly appreciated. And second, I don't know if the market appreciates this well, but most of the concentrates that exist in the world come from monacites, and the level of concentration of rare earths in them vary, I would say, between 40 and 60%. Our concentrate has a purity, in the case of Carina, of 92%. No, again, unoptimized, so we can further improve on that. But this is a very, very pure concentrate with high contents of DYTB that is going to be, I would say, highly coveted by separation companies.
Thank you, Ramon. The next one comes from Cesar Perez. What would be the specific milestones for Carina Module in terms of permitting, investment, and procurement on the stated 582 million capex?
Yes, look, the key is going to be, Cesar, the permitting, as I mentioned, no, the permitting and the commercial contracts. No, permitting, the baselines have already started. Hopefully, in a year and a quarter, we will be able to have that completed. As I mentioned, the plant is simple. No, it has its tricks, it has its nuances that we have been able to fine tune in the pilot plant. But it's not a complex plant. It's easy to build. It's basically tanks, agitators. And the water plant, I would say the water plant is important, and finally filters. No, filters are the single most important, the single most costly elements in our capex. So again, baselines are important. Then presenting a solid project, and then working hand in hand with the state of Goiás to produce permitting. That's the first part, and the second part is, in order to start construction, we're going to be needing also to have commercial contracts in place. No, so we are actively working towards obtaining them. There are different ways of negotiating them. We are open to starting to sign MOUs to more sophisticated contracts, and those conversations have already started. They are ongoing. They will take some time, I believe. They're not immediate. But we're on track to produce them. I cannot offer a date for that as a milestone, but it's going to be key that we are advanced in that process before deciding to build a plant either in Penco or in Brazil.
And the next question comes from Dan Kwan. Is there rare earth substitution possible?
I mean, you can fully eliminate rare earths from the motors. The problem is that you are not going to have the efficiencies that you would if they are there. No, when you buy an electric vehicle, the first question that you ask is how many miles can I get in the car? How long does the battery last? No, and rare earths, as you know, they don't go into the battery; they go into the motor. And having an efficient motor helps precisely protect the investment that the manufacturer makes in an expensive lithium, cobalt, nickel, and a battery. No, notably, I mean, the anecdote that I always like to tell is I think we have all seen the Cybertruck presented by Tesla. You know, accelerating faster than a Porsche while towing a Porsche. No, that was quite impressive. That's not the battery; that's the motor. No. And that's a motor that contains permanent magnets. So if we're expecting high performance in electric applications in general, not only electric vehicles, we're going to be needing rare earths. No, so I heard someone say you can do things without rare earths, but every time that you do them with rare earths, you're going to do it much better.
Thank you. The next question, also by Dan, is how realistic are demand assumptions based on doubts regarding continuation of EV demand lately?
Yes, no, we are fully aware that in 2023, there was a slump in demand of electric vehicles, but our conviction regarding the transformation of the transportation metric from internal combustion engines into electric vehicles, we believe it's happening. No, the speed at which it occurs, it will certainly vary through time. It will not be stable, but it's going to occur, and it's going to occur fast. No, pressure from governments and politicians to enforce policies regarding how quick this can occur are also going to be quite important. And we're talking only about electric vehicles, meaning electric cars, no? But there is going to be electric boats, drones that today are toys, are going to be also important applications for rare earths. We're going to see robotics also increase quite substantially. That's another crucial application. So this is just a beginning, no? This is just a beginning. Again, our conviction is that the world will, it's not only a moral obligation to defend us against global warming, it's going to be also a good economic decision to do so. So we're quite convinced that it's going to happen.
Thank you. The next question is, what is the cost of heavy rare earths in an EV?
It's very low. It's extremely low. We believe that at the current Chinese prices, it varies between $30 and $40, no, per vehicle. So it's really very low compared to the attributes that it brings to the vehicle, no. So we believe that an increase in the price, or the cost in this case, of heavy rare earth elements in the magnet is going to be rather irrelevant, you know, for the production of the overall car, but at the same time indispensable, no, in order to obtain the performance attributes that are required by these new cars.
And the last question we have is, how extensive is your patent protection? How important are the patents to protect your process?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would believe that the patents protect you for several years, but I don't know exactly how many years.
Okay, and the question came from Dan Kwan, so we can follow up with him in a separate call as well.
Excellent.
And those are all the questions that we have for the Q&A session. Thank you everybody for joining us today. And as we said earlier, we will be sharing the presentation and the recording on our website and via email.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Liliana.
Thank you. Have a good day.